Before the skyscrapers, before the reality shows, the controversial headlines, the heated elections, before being called a genius by some and a villain by others, there was only a boy, skinny, stubborn, born in the working-class neighborhood of Queens, New York, surrounded by concrete, yet dreaming of marble, while the world outside ignored his existence. He was already visualizing golden halls, helicopters with his name on them, magazine covers, not as fantasy, but as an inevitable destiny. From an early age, he learned that reality isn't what you see. It's what you cultivate inside until the entire world is forced to see it too. Success doesn't just appear out of nowhere. It germinates in silence, far from applause. Law of Gestation. This is not just a video about Donald Trump. It's about the journey of those who dare to believe in the invisible. It's about you, about what happens when an ordinary person decides to live in an extraordinary way. Because before victory comes chaos. Before the harvest comes the emptiness. And before you're called a genius, you'll be called insane. Donald was born in an ordinary neighborhood, but his father was anything but ordinary. Fred Trump was cold, strategic, and demanding. From an early age, Donald learned the world belongs to those who master the invisible rules. At 13, he was sent to military school. There, he learned to face challenges with the cold precision of a general. He learned discipline. But above all, he learned that life is a mental war. And in this war, the weak die in anonymity. While the strong wait for the right time to bloom, great things take time. Everything begins as a seed. Law of Gestation. Donald wanted more. Being rich wasn't enough. He wanted to be a name, a brand, a legend. That's when he saw what no one else did: an abandoned hotel. The Commodore. While others laughed at the project, he saw an urban palace, a symbol, a throne. And there in the heart of New York, he built his first masterpiece, Trump Tower. Crystals, marble, gold, and ego. It wasn't just architecture. It was self-image, crystallized. You have to see yourself as a king. Before the world accepts your reign, the world began to notice. The tabloids, the cameras, the investors. Donald Trump had crossed the portal. He was no longer just a man. He was a symbol. But every journey has its winter. In the 1990s, everything collapsed. The casinos went bankrupt, billions in debt. Magazines called him a failure. Experts buried him. But they forgot one thing. Donald had planted a vision. Taya planted a vision. And the gestation of success doesn't end with a storm. It endures. It waits. It comes back stronger. While others laughed, he studied. While they mocked, he restructured. The world only sees what has already manifested. But the wise see what's germinating beneath the soil. Law of Gestation. Donald Trump's greatest masterpiece was never a building. Not the casinos, not the hotels, nor the towers that scraped the sky. The greatest construction of his life was the construction of himself. After falling into the financial chaos of the 90s, many thought the game was over. But Donald understood something very few do. You're never bankrupt as long as you still have an image. And you're never defeated as long as you still have attention. So he did what masters do. He reinvented himself, refined his legend, rebuilt his presence. If the world forgot, he would make the world remember. And he did it in the most powerful way. By turning himself into a brand, a spectacle, a myth. When Trump debuted as the host of The Apprentice, it wasn't just a TV show. It was a ritual of power affirmation. Millions of Americans watched a cold, direct, imposing man point his finger and say, "You're fired." But behind the phrase, there was a lesson. A lesson in posture, dominance, branding, and presence. There, Trump wasn't selling real estate. He was selling an idea of power. And when you control the idea, you control minds. His book became a global bestseller. And it wasn't just a business manual. It was a mantra disguised as a biography. Each page revealed his philosophy. Think big, take risks, control the narrative, never show weakness. Be aggressive, make people talk about you. Be impossible to ignore. He understood it before everyone else. In the 21st century, attention is the new oil. And the human mind worships symbols, names, narratives. So he turned his own last name into an entity. Stamped it on towers, airplanes, hotels, ties, bottled water, magazines, reality shows. Trump was no longer a man. He was a concept, an archetype of power, luxury, and domination. While others sell products, I sell the dream of being invincible. Donald Trump, and thus, he became something far greater than a businessman. He became a modern myth, a living story, loved by some, hated by others, but never ignored. What no one saw was the invisible process behind it all. The gestation period that no one filmed. The silent nights, the closed doors. The ruthless criticism. The hidden failures, but he watered the vision every day. Stayed focused, waited for the right time. The fruit doesn't sprout because you're in a hurry. It sprouts because you were faithful to the seed. Law of gestation. At this stage of the journey, Trump no longer depended on visible results. He had already planted his eternity, and the harvest was just beginning. In 2015, he did the unthinkable. He launched himself as a candidate for president. No one believed it. The newspapers laughed. The politicians scoffed. But Donald knew something no one else could see. There is a forgotten America, an invisible, abandoned people, waiting for someone to say, "I see you." He spoke simply. He spoke directly. He said what no one else had the courage to say. And he won. The hero's journey isn't about pleasing. It's about breaking through, provoking, leading. He became the 45th President of the United States, against everything, against everyone, against logic. Want to know the real secret? Want to understand how someone hated by so many, judged, bankrupt, mocked, reached the top twice? It wasn't the skyscrapers, it wasn't the millions, not the speeches, not the reality shows. It was the mind. Yes, the mind. Donald Trump's true empire was built from the inside out. While the world reacts, the strategist plans. While others live in the now, the visionary lives in the invisible. Trump understood early on that the world isn't shaped by force, but by perception. And perception is a reflection of what you choose to believe about yourself. Success doesn't start in your pocket. It starts in the mirror. How do you see yourself? As a victim, a dreamer, a spectator, or as the main character in a story still being written? Trump built an unshakable identity. A persona greater than criticism, greater than failure, greater than his own mistakes. Even when everything was collapsing around him, even when the system said, "It's over," he saw himself as a winner. And when you protect your identity with everything you've got, the world has no choice. It bends. Everything Trump created was born from an invisible time, a time no one sees, a time no one believes in, a time made only of faith, silence, focus, and work. The seed doesn't need applause. It needs darkness, time, and patience. Law of gestation. This is the phase where almost everyone gives up. Because it's not Instagrammable. It doesn't get likes. It doesn't make headlines. But those who endure in this stage, those who remain faithful to the vision, eventually watch the world applaud what once was just a thought. You don't need to be a genius. You don't need to be rich. You don't need the best network or the best education, but you must master your mind. Protect your vision. Refuse to think small. Refuse to accept mediocrity as normal, and accept one uncomfortable truth. Everything you see in the world started as something no one saw. The Trump Tower, the presidency, the empire, the name written in gold. All of it was real in his mind long before it existed in the world. And now the question is, what exists in your mind? What are you gestating? Do you believe enough to keep it alive, even when no one else does? Donald Trump is to many a controversial figure. To others, a symbol of strength and courage. But what you need to understand is that this story was never just about him. It's about the universal pattern of success, about what governs all great achievements and what already exists within you right now. It all starts with a seed, a small idea, a misunderstood vision, a quiet faith, something only you can see in the beginning, while others doubt, while the world mocks, while the soil seems barren. You water, you wait, you believe. And that's when the law of gestation comes into play. Nothing great is born ready. Everything worthwhile requires time, pain, and patience to bloom. Law of gestation, Trump failed. He fell. He was humiliated, but he never broke on the inside. Because what was within him was stronger than any external crisis. He wasn't driven by what he saw. He was guided by what he believed. And what about you? You may not have towers, or helicopters, or TV shows. But you have something even more powerful. You have a choice. You can choose to plant your vision today, even if no one believes, even if the fruits take time, even if the ground feels dry. You can choose to take control of your narrative, to build your personal brand, to stay faithful to your seed until it breaks through the soil and the world can no longer ignore it. The top was never reserved for the perfect. It has always belonged to the faithful, to those who dared to believe even when nothing made sense. The journey is yours. The vision is yours, but the pattern is the same. The formula is right in front of you. Think big, take risks, protect your inner image. Be patient with time and ruthless in execution, and never, ever give up on what you know you were born to be, because, in the end, Donald Trump's greatest legacy wasn't the fortune or the presidency. It was living proof that reality bends to the will of those who believe. Now the question is, will you repeat the pattern, or will you waste the seed you carry? The choice is yours. Great results are never born from haste. They're born from the unshakable faith of those who plant and wait. Law of gestation. If this video touched your heart, subscribe, like, and comment. I got the pattern.